gotta hit my thing. I forgot about that. All right. Start streaming. There we go. Okay.
Well, hello, everybody. We are live here on Kingdom of Honor, and we are talking wrestling. Lots of wrestling because somebody got hit in the face with troll balls last week. So we didn't get to cover Rebellion and some AEW stuff, and this week we're going to make up for it. But where we are starting, and I guess this is up to you if you've got anything to say first, but what the hell did I watch with that blindfold match?
It wasn't a blindfold match. I don't know why they called it that. It had the most ridiculous rules ever. Like
Like,
like you can't win the match unless your opponent has a blindfold on.
yeah, and they can take the blindfold off to break a submission. They can take the blindfold off to stop a 10 count. It was insane.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it made sense to me that to stop the count out, the blindfold had to being off would work. But like, why would you have to break a submission because your opponent took your blindfold off? That didn't make any sense to me at all. It's like
None of it made any sense.
because Kelly's like, well, I guess he has to break the hold because he took the blindfold off. Well, no, he just can't tap out and have it mean anything. Why should he have to let go of the hold? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff in that just made any sense. Like I was expecting a blindfold match. Like you blindfold them and they fight blindfolded. And instead we got a hood that had to be put on their face just to win the match. Made no
Right.
sense. Made absolutely no sense. Kevin Kelly was on point with all of his. I had a hood. He had a hood on. Lights went out. His normal Yano stuff that he does whenever Yano hits a low blow. But ultimately, what in the fuck did we watch? I just I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't get it either. It's weird. Like I said, I was expecting a blindfold match. That's not what we got, and I did not understand the point of it.
It just it when we talk about blindfold matches, like you said, it should have been somebody blindfolded or both of them blindfolded. I would have rather seen two guys swinging at the sky than see what we saw.
Reach for
I,
the sky, boys.
and I was reading the reviews on it, and people were like, "Oh, it's the best blindfold match I've ever seen." It wasn't a blindfold match.
No,
It
it
just
was not a
was not
blindfold.
a blindfold match. Why is that considered the best you've ever seen? It was not a blindfold match.
No, and the worst part of it was that fucking Yano won yet again.
Well, yeah, there is that, but
I, I
this
mean, I mean, I mean, he survives like low blows. He survives the Garrett. He survives the lights being turned out when he was about to win the match, and he still wins the goddamn thing. It's just,
well,
oh,
this
I hate it.
this title was made for Yano. He's
No, it
got
wasn't. It was made for Okada. He's the one that made it.
Yeah,
Remember?
but Okada's not going to be the one who's going to be doing stupid stipulation matches. This title was made for Yano.
I know, but he's like undefeated in them now. I mean, this title's been around for like 8 months, and he's never lost one of those matches. It makes no sense.
It's
It's
been
like
around longer than that, hasn't it?
like what's the fucking well no, it's his last July. So what's the fucking point? So 10 months, I guess. 10 months.
Well, to make Yano relevant, because that's
Yeah,
all Yano does.
he still isn't to me. Well, I guess he is because I'm upset that he won. So I guess that does make him relevant.
Yeah,
You know,
fair enough, fair enough.
I mean, and we were so happy last July with the Code of Hate. The change of um, evil. To the new Code of Paint with the new tights and the new music and everything. And he wins the title. He loses it a month later, and he's been a joke ever since. You
Hmm.
know, it's sad.
Yeah, and it just screams that they needed somebody to be a placeholder heel.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, it would have been if it had mountain if it had amounted to anything with him and versus Jay White for leadership of Bullet Club, maybe it would have been better. But the more and more we see Evil, the more and more we realize he was just a placeholder heel
Yeah,
until
exactly.
Jay White got back.
Right.
Speaking of Jay White, holy crap. First ever well, they're not calling it a Grand Slam champion.
No, they're calling it a quadruple crown champion.
Right. But first ever Grand Slam champion in NJPW.
Second ever Grand Slam champion in JPW.
Who's the first?
Kenny Omega.
Yeah, but they're not counting the junior. as
I know they're
part
not. I know
as
they're
part
not.
of this.
I know,
Um,
but Kenny was junior heavyweight champion, United States champion, Intercontinental champion, and heavyweight champion.
right.
So,
So I mean, if they were counting junior as a major title, then yeah, but they're not. They're counting the four big ones. And at this point, to be honest, I don't know that you can count the Intercontinental title anymore since it
well,
doesn't exist.
that's the thing is it's there's very few people that are ever going to be able to match what Jay White did now, right?
Right.
Because I mean, if Kenny came back and he won the never openweight title, which I don't ever see happening, you know, then he would do it. Um, and I think that probably if no, I know for sure if Goto wins the no, Goto would have to win both the heavyweight championship and the U.S. title, right?
Right.
To do it, Juice White could still theoretically win the Intercontinental title, the never title, and the heavyweight championship. To no, he's never been an Intercontinental champion. Yeah, so there's very few people that could still do it, right? I mean, Tanahashi could. I guess if Tanahashi were to win the U.S. title, that would count. But I mean, like I said, there's very very few people left that can actually do that. So
Yeah, I mean, and that's I like the way that in his promo when he was laying on his back in the middle of the ring was phenomenal. I just all exhausted, laying on his back, cutting a promo on Tanahashi. I thought was fantastic.
yeah, it
Um,
was. It was great because and it made sense for the match too because they had like basically had a war over the leg whips, right?
right.
And so it made sense that he was laying there because he couldn't really stand very well, you know.
And then to get him to do the TTO, tap out to the TTO,
Right.
was a great little bit of storytelling. And I mentioned this yesterday, and Kenny Omega is still the probably hands down best wrestler in the world. And I will stand by that as long as I can. But Jay White and Will Ospreay are both nipping at his heels.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best five wrestlers in the world are Kenny Omega, Jay White, Will Ospreay, Pac, and Ray Phoenix. And if you take one of those five guys out, then I'm going to put Desperado in.
The
That's why
only, yeah, the only one out of that,
I think really the top five wrestlers on the planet are in those two promotions.
yeah, and I mean the only one that I would maybe have an argument for is Pac, but then like you said, you replace him with Desperado, and there's no argument.
Right. And I know people are going to say, well, but what about Hiromu? And I'm like, well, Hiromu is great. Like Hiromu is great, and he does great stuff in the ring. He brings a great charisma to it. So if you want to throw all that in, then Hiromu deserves to be in that discussion as well. But move Savannah. But when it's actually talking about the in ring performance, to me, Desperado's better than Hiromu. So
Well, and I mean, we were calling Hiromu one of the best wrestlers in the world a year ago,
right.
and 2 years ago, and 3 years ago. But the problem is, Hiromu cannot stay healthy, so we
Not
can't,
not
we
one
can't,
not one little bit. No.
we can't get the book on him that we need to get on him, which is where Desperado and Pac come in because we have the book on them. We see it consistently. Where Hiromu is stuck taking 6 to 8 months off every couple of matches, these other guys are out there busting their asses.
Jay White as never openweight champion is going to be very interesting. We talked about how Tana was kind of like switching that title back to being well, not back even back to being, but to being more of like an intercontinental championship now that the IC title is gone.
Right.
So Will, yeah, but we'd also talked about how, we thought Jay White as the never openweight champion in a scenario where he's defending against the guys that always challenged for the never before, like Goto and Suzuki and Ishii, would be just amazing because of his style versus their style, you know.
Right.
And his mindset more or less versus their mindsets, like him like always trying to weasel his way out of these like tough contests, with his like with his like his sliminess, and also like just his thing where sometimes when he goes to take a big hit, he'll just crumple and like cover up,
Right.
that kind of stuff. Where is it so and then also that thing, this thing going on where he is calling himself basically the True Bullet Club, and saying that he's the true belt collector now, which is obviously both shots at Kenny Omega.
Right. Right.
So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see also, like, is this setting up to something now that the Forbidden Door has been opened? We've got Yuji Nagata coming over to AEW to challenge Moxley for the World Heavyweight Championship. I mean, I'm sorry, the United States Heavyweight Championship. So, is there a possibility that somewhere down the road we are going to see Jay White versus Kenny Omega?
Well, none of that. We had Kenta on AEW TV before. We've got this working relationship clearly with AEW and Impact.
Hmm.
Um, so many NJPW wrestlers are appearing on Impact. I mean, Finn Juice is their Impact champions, tag team champions, and then, the surprise by ELP showing up on Impact this last week. There's clearly a working relationship between the three promotions.
Right.
And Ring of Honor is still kind of in that as well, with them still having, NJPW talent on their shows. So uh, I love the time we're in because this is what we've always wanted. We just wanted working relationships with everybody.
Oh yeah, because Rocky showed up on there. I was
Yep.
thinking who, like which end I guess it did recently, but yeah, Rocky Romero showed up on there.
Yeah,
That's right.
and called
Okay.
their latest pay-per-view. Um,
Called their pay-per-view, but then also had a match on ROH TV as
oh,
well.
that's right. Yeah, he did. Okay. But yeah, I mean, so we've got four major companies that are working together right now, which to me is fantastic, and I just want to see continue. And then, of course, there's the rumors of MLW showing up on Peacock, which opens the door for a working relationship with WWE.
I saw that when I think you mentioned that to me last week, and I looked
Right.
at that, and what it looked like to me was that they were in talks with Peacock before Peacock.
Became
Um,
Peacock.
no, before Peacock got WWE Network. And now MLW's actually signed a contract with Vice TV.
Yeah, but Vice TV is still owned by NBC, I thought.
Maybe I'm not sure. But there and it sounds like from what Court Bowers said, at least the start with their relationship with Vice TV, they're showing like stuff from like 2 years ago on there. Not their and their current stuff is still going to be live on YouTube. And I think also on didn't they also sign a contract with Roku TV as well? Or isn't there live stuff on Roku TV now
Well,
too?
Vice TV is part of Roku.
Okay, okay,
So obviously there's, that working channel or working
gotcha.
working relationship. Cable company based in digital media. Print, what the hell is it gonna? Oh, it doesn't say who owns them, who their parent company is.
Okay. Um, Speaking of Dontaku and speaking of the best wrestlers on the planet, though,
Jesus, Will
um,
Ospreay.
I was so amazingly impressed with Osprey versus Shingo, and
Yeah.
and these guys, and maybe it's not fair to Shingo just because he had such a long career before it, and I do remember seeing him at Ring of Honor before, and I know he was like a Dragon Gate superstar, but being the fact that these two guys, wrestled in the finals of the 2019 Best of the Super Juniors. And Osprey was the first one to get a victory over him in New Japan. And then they both right after that entered the they were the first two guys ever to wrestle, and they did it in the same year to wrestle the Best of the Super Juniors and the G1 Climax after each other. And they've now had five outstanding matches against each other. Like to me, they are the best rivalry in New Japan right now. Those two guys. And maybe it's not fair, again, they said to Shingo that when I think of Shingo, I think of Osprey, but I really do because those two guys, they keep having these phenomenal matches against each other, and I think Osprey is now 4-1 against, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Um,
He
and
was he was 2-1 coming. I thought this was their fourth match, so he was 2-1 coming into this.
Okay, so they're wrestled four times then. Okay, so Osprey's now 3-1 against him, and watching this match, like I was really enjoying it. I thought it was a great match, and then all of a sudden Osprey's selling started becoming just outstanding, like amazing, and then Shingo followed suit, and I'm like, okay, this match is starting to really remind me of Okada versus Omega. Um, and I'm watching, and I know you and I differ on the greatness of those matches. Like you think they're great, but you don't think they're all time great like I do.
Well, I had
Um,
an
and
issue with.
and so like I'm watching this, and I got to tell you, Jeff, like this match got to the level where it's probably right now number 4 in my list of all time great matches. And
I
Meltzer, who I know you love so much, rated it a 6.
I don't like. I think their Wrestle Kingdom match, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was Dominion. Whatever the match they had to figure out who was the was it the Best of Super Juniors winner?
Yeah.
Or was it the, yeah, I can't remember, but I felt like that match was a little bit better. Um,
Okay.
and I forgot where I was going with this.
Well, yeah, I mean, but even if you do feel that way, I mean, I totally understand why you would. I mean, but and that was the match of the year in 2019, right? Those two
Right.
guys against each
Yeah,
other.
exactly.
Uh, and I honestly cannot think that this match will be topped this year. I think this is the leader of the clubhouse, and it's going to take something absolutely out of this world to beat this match for match of the year.
That's true. I mean, I still like the Jay White versus Ibushi match from Wrestle Kingdom um, being up there. But you'd mentioned how I didn't feel the same about Okada and Omega, and the reason I didn't is because they had an hour-long match, that first greatest ever match they had, and I just felt like with the length of time that that match took, they could have taken a little bit more time between big spots. Like they would hit a big spot and immediately someone would be up to hit another big spot. There was no downtime between the big spots. That's where I lost it on that match, where it was no longer going to be the greatest match. And my negatives with this one are very, very few. But I felt like there were a couple of instances where they kind of followed that same trope, where there was a huge, huge spot, and then right away someone was there to follow it up with another huge spot. Um, that Poison Rana, followed up by the was it the Hidden Blade? Kevin Kelly said the same thing I did. I mean, I was watching that going, Jesus Christ. And Kevin Kelly literally said that on commentary too, and did the same thing when I was watching. It's like, holy crap, did that just happen? But ultimately, I felt like the match went on too long. I felt like it went on about 10 to 15 minutes too long. I felt like there was a spot there where they were both just so exhausted they couldn't stand, and there was a couple of Oz cutters, and I felt like it should have ended there. That's my only negative of it is it just went on too long.
See, and there are plenty of times when I felt that way, and I've said it on this show, right? And one of the and I've said that about matches you loved last year,
Right.
or the year before last, I suppose. It's hard to remember in this COVID era, but I think it was the year before last when it was Osprey and not Osprey, but Gargano and Cole and those matches you loved. I thought went over long.
Right.
This one, like I was like just like so lost in it. Then I, I really feel like if you're reading a book or you're watching a TV show or you're watching a movie or in this case watching a wrestling match, listening to an album, whatever it is, if it is up to like that greatness level, you don't even realize that time's going by, and you almost don't want it to ever stop.
M-
Um, and this one, I was right there, like I was lost in this match. I had no idea it lasted 45 minutes until it was over.
I
You know,
think my boiling point with it was there was that segment in the middle where they stood there trading punches, and they had headbutts, and all this
and
stuff.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'll let you finish right away. But and this match that felt earned, where so much nowadays they do that and it doesn't.
Right,
I'm sorry.
but
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
in my opinion, that should be a midway point, or at least a close to the ending point. And the fact that it was 30 minutes in at that point was a little, and then they went on for another 10 to 15 minutes was where it lost me. With the way that they were battling each other, that should have been okay, we're both exhausted, we've got nothing left, so we're just going to punch and headbutt each other. That should be towards the end of a match, not still have it go on another 15 minutes with back and forth.
That's fair, I guess. I mean, I see where you're coming from. Um, I think this is just a situation where, like, two intelligent opinions can differ,
Right,
right? Where
exactly.
we're like and I think this happened like right after Osprey got hit with the pop up Death Valley Driver, and instead of like being able to go for a pin, he just like popped right back up with adrenaline, and that started this whole exchange.
Yeah.
And I remember like when Osprey hit that headbutt, I was like, holy shit! Like I jumped back in my chair at
Oh, I
that
did too.
point.
I
So
did too. I was watching it going, what the hell? I didn't expect that.
I
Um,
know.
and there were, the other thing too that I want to note that I really enjoy about the United Empire is normally like you watch it all the time with Bullet Club and Dick Togo and Gato and Jado. They're always involved. United Empire does not get involved. They're just there to cheer on their mates.
Right. The only thing that they got involved with here was Red Shoes basically looked at them and said, "I'm going to have to stop this thing."
Right.
And they're like,
And they're
no,
like,
no,
no.
no, don't stop it. Give him a chance. Give him a chance.
Right.
And that really built, and that really added to the drama to me too. Is like, Red Shoes like is looking, going, God, I got to stop this. That guy can't defend himself,
Right.
and the stable is going, no, no, give him another minute. And there was like points here where he could have stopped it for both guys. And then that spot, like you mentioned with the hidden blade, where he's about to count to 3, and it's like, oh my God, Shingo's arm is just like a couple of fingers of his hand are under the rope. that was just that was just amazing drama there, because Osprey hasn't won a match with the hidden blade in like 3 years.
No.
And all of a
Since he
sudden,
first
he's
debuted
about
it.
right. He first debuted it against I think it was
Kota.
it Ibushi?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
Kota.
it was Ibushi, and he pinned him with it. And this one, he wasn't able, and this was about to be only the second time ever he'd won them with that move, but just that, that little bit of his hand is draped under the rope.
Yep. And the other spot too is, I can't remember what it is. Greens from New Japan, or Greens from Japan, or what's the name of that move?
Uh,
The one he did.
yeah, I can't remember exactly, but yeah, something like that.
Yeah, he did it through the table and everything. But the one thing I've always disliked about that move is that the referee counts when the left shoulder is clearly not on the map. It's on Shingo's leg.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Other than that, that move is devastating and everything. I like it as a transition move, but it always ends up trying to get a 3 count. It never gets a
Hmm.
3 count because the guy kicks out. But for somebody who is, especially Red Shoes, who notices his arm under the rope like that, for him to not to notice that both shoulders are not touching the map.
Okay.
It's just that's just but like I said, as far as this one goes, I thought it was a fantastic match. It proves that Will Ospreay is right up there with Kenny and Jay White as greatest wrestlers ever, or greatest wrestlers in the world right now. But I just felt like it went on a little too long.
And that's that's just something where when I'm and that was your experience, and that's totally valid. I totally understand that. It's just, to me, it didn't feel that way because I got lost in the match.
Fair enough.
And
That's fair
and
enough.
and uh and I did want to say one more thing about my ranking of this list, like my fourth favorite match of all time, and what it's behind, basically, Jeff, is Okada versus Omega 2. I'm sorry, Okada versus Omega 3. Okada versus no, I didn't change it again. Okada versus Omega 4. Okada versus Omega 2, because remember, I forgot they had the match in the G1 as well. And then also the Omega and Page versus the Bucks tag match from last year. So I know I have a lot of recency bias there, but I really do feel like those matches are my best I've ever seen. What I would say about this one, though, is that I may, if I were to rewatch this one and rewatch the matches Omega had against Okada, I may actually end up preferring this one, just because I've gotten so tired of Okada's style over the last couple of years since those matches.
As much as I hate how tired I got of Ric Flair's, I still put his matches against Ricky Steamboat as some of the greatest of all time, and I can still
Mm-hmm.
go back and rewatch them. So, as much as I kind of see where you're coming from, you have to kind of look at it in its time. Um, Now the Bucks versus Page and Omega, Jesus, Golden Lovers versus Okada and Ibushi.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I
Wasn't there also like a Ibushi and Omega versus Osprey and Okada match?
I don't remember that. If there was, I don't remember it. I mean, what I'm
Well,
thinking of,
I thought that was the first time we ever saw Ibushi like do that suplex, or that that suplex that Osprey backflipped out of. I thought that was the matchup.
possibly. I guess I don't.
Okay.
I don't remember it. So,
Okay.
there's been so many matches with those guys, especially when they were doing that little face turn thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. Where am I gonna place this one all time? It's up there, but I still don't know that I like it better than their finals of uh, the junior tournament.
And even if you don't, I mean, I think we're looking at quite a possibility that these two guys will have the match of the year 2 out of the last 3 years.
Oh yeah,
Which is
absolutely.
it's just incredible.
I can't
I
think
gotta.
of an I can't
I'm
think
gonna.
of another match this year that I liked better.
Right. I need to let you filibuster for a second. My dog is wanting to go outside, so I got to go grab her.
Actually, I was going to take that back. I can think of a match I like better this year, but I'll wait till you get back to talk about it. As far as as far as the rest of this card went, I thought that um, Tama Tonga versus Ishii, or not Ishii, t I can't think of his name right now. The other half of the Golden Techers fighting over the Steel Glove was great. I was not expecting a good ladder match out of those two. I'm used to Tama being a tag team guy who has great tag team ladder matches, but I didn't know what to expect of him doing an individual match. But I thought that this was a really well done match. I enjoyed that first night. Jay White, like I said before, Jay White is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I don't know that there's a better heel in the world right now than Jay White. And as far as his match telling goes, he's right up there, like I said, with Osprey and Omega. And I've been saying that for a couple of weeks now. I've probably been saying that for a couple of years now. I just I loved the entire shows that I saw, both shows, uh, and I I really want to see, like Shane had mentioned, Shingo and Osprey being kind of the rivals of the future. My only problem with that is the fact that Shingo is quite a bit older than Osprey. So I can't see this feud going more than a couple of years. Shane, I heard you kind of come back here. I don't know if you are.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, when Kelly said at the end of that match that Shingo will be into JPW World Heavyweight Champion someday, or IWGP World Heavyweight Champion someday, I was like, nah, he's not gonna be.
No, because he's already in his isn't he already 40?
I think so.
He's pretty close if he's not. Where Will Ospreay is 28 years old.
Yeah, I don't
So
think this will be the rivalry of the future. I just think that right now it's probably my favorite rivalry in pro wrestling.
yeah, and it's hard to dispute that. It really is.
Yeah,
He's 38, so he's 10 years older than Will Ospreay, which is where I mean he dominated um, Dragon
and
Gate.
Osprey and Wayne are the same age, right?
Ospreay and
Or
who?
is White a year younger?
I think Jay White is younger. Let me
Okay,
double check here. And now I forgot what I was going to say before. Oh yeah, I
sorry.
was going to say my favorite match of this year so far. And as great as this one is, the only one I can think that might have topped it was White versus Coda from Wrestle Kingdom.
See, I thought from Wrestle Kingdom I thought you liked the Shingo versus Cobb match better. Maybe not.
I loved them both. From night one, it
Okay,
was Shingo versus Cobb. From night two, it was White versus Ibushi.
okay.
And they're both 28, both Will Ospreay and um, Jay White. Jay White was born October 9th, 92, so he's 28. Jesus Christ, I graduated before that. And Osprey is May 7th, 93. So Osprey is actually younger than Jay White.
Yeah, he is. Um, yeah, so he just turned 28.
Yep,
He
he
was
just.
27 when this match was taking place.
Oh, that's right. They did say on that he turns 28 in 3 days.
Yeah.
So,
Um, Go ahead.
I mean, I was just gonna say they did say that he's 3 days away from his 28th birthday.
Yeah, I did not like Ibushi versus White. I liked it a lot, and I actually thought, I mean, maybe I misremembered the conversation, or maybe it's just growing on you over time, but I actually thought that, when we talked about that match, that I actually had liked it better than you did on the night.
You probably did because I
But
was pissed off that White lost.
that's
Um,
fair.
and
But
Ibushi, and I was so sick and tired of his dark Ibushi bullshit. So it's possible that at the time when I saw it that I was kind of down on it, but I have watched it a couple more times this year just when I have had nothing else to do, and I really do like it.
cool. Yeah, to me that match lost me just a little bit when Ibushi hit the Phoenix Splash, and then um, what's his face, Jado pulled. Was it Jado? Gato. I'm sorry, pulled um, Red Shoes out of the ring. You know,
Yeah, true.
I just really felt like that was a perfect moment to end the match, and I thought they just got a little bit too cute. So I mean, it's still up there for me. It's just not a 6-star match like this one is.
Yeah, what is a 6-star
I
match?
I don't know. I mean, I
It's
was about to
pretty
say like
much
it's
now
it's,
that
it's
he
so odd that it's so odd that we're in that realm where I mean, it's almost like we should be going like doing like we just did for Shadow and Bone, like do ranking out of 10, and then we can have like okay, this match is a 9.99, and this other match is a 9.852. You know what I mean?
I mean, the problem with Meltzer's rating system is once he broke that forbidden 5-star match, now he's got to rank every match above 5 stars because, they're equally as great. That's why I hate the whole star rating system and the whole ranking system for anything. Because once you get a masterpiece and something beats it, now all of a sudden you're stuck in a boat. Like he was with his 5 stars. Forever it was 5-star, 5-star, 5-star. And then all of a sudden it was 6.5 stars. And now he's got matches that are 5.5 to 6 stars. And it seems like matches that he
But he still only got still only got over 5 stars for like 6 matches total, including the first 2 he did it for.
oh god, no, it's been more than that.
It's not. It's really not. I think this is one of them. The first match between these two was one of them. I think he gave that one 5.5. And then there's maybe two, and then I think maybe I think maybe there's 2 more besides it. It's not very many. It really isn't.
Sorry.
I know Subscribe to his newsletter, so I don't have the rankings off the top of my head, but I know that it hasn't been that many.
No, you know who does? Google.
Does it really? I thought you had to pay for his newsletter to get it.
No, like Wikipedia has all of this stuff on it.
Okay.
All right. Here we're looking. First 6-star match I came across was a Landover, Maryland show between Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat. 6 stars.
Yeah, he did. Right. The one between that was the first time he'd ever done it, and then Okada versus Omega was the second.
So, and then we have, in '94, we have Misawa versus Kawada that was 6 stars.
Oh, I didn't know about that one. Okay.
Well, of course, his love for Japan. And then we have the next one after that is, sorry, I'm getting there.
Well, it's not fair for us to say like his love for Japan, because we love Japan wrestling too. I mean, if I had the time, I'd go back and watch all that great stuff from All Japan. I just don't have the time,
Yep,
and I don't have the streaming service either, for that matter. But
so he had 2 that were ahead of Okada and Omega, and then Okada versus Omega was the next one, and then he had Okada versus Omega 6.25, then Okada versus Omega was a 6, then he had Naito versus Omega 5.75.
I didn't. That one I didn't realize he did. Okay, go ahead.
Okada versus Tanahashi 5.5. Ishimori versus Takahashi 5.5. Then he had Okada versus Omega, a 7-star match. And then Omega versus Ishii 5.5. Omega versus Ibushi 5.5. Tanahashi versus Ibushi 5.75. Omega versus Tanahashi 5.7. We're not even out of 2018 right now, and he's got a dozen. And then Cole versus Gargano in April of 19, 5.5. Gargano versus Cole, 5.25. Takagi versus Ospreay, this is the 2019 one, 5.75. Then Okada versus Ospreay later that year, 5.75. And then Takagi versus Ishii, 5.5. This is what I'm talking about. He broke that barrier. Granted, he broke that barrier back in 1984 with a 6-star match. But once he broke it with Omega versus Okada, now all of a sudden that's just pretty much his normal. He's had more 5-star matches in the last 3 years than he had in the first 25 years of the existence of him rating matches.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you're obviously, you just showed me that you were very right and I was very wrong. I really did not realize he had gotten that far overboard with it.
I mean, like I said, if we look at his 2019 alone, 2018 and 19 alone, he had more 5-star matches than he had from 1984 to 2017 in just those 2 years.
But
so that's the problem. Once you break that.
See, the problem with that is I kind of agree with him.
No, I do too.
I don't necessarily agree with him breaking the scale, but I do think pro wrestling is getting better over time. That's when I see these 5 matches are like my top 5 matches of all time, I'm not kidding. And I don't think I'm speaking from a recency bias. I think I'm actually like watching stuff that I had not seen the quality of over the last 20 whatever years.
I want to go back and watch Mitsuharu Misawa, because between him and Kenta Kobashi, and didn't Kenta Kobashi not win a match until like his final match?
I don't think he was the Tommy Dreamer of all Japan, so I don't think that's probably true.
No, I could have swore that it took him years to win a match.
A match ever, or just a match against a certain guy?
A match ever. But
Really?
anyway,
Ken Kobashi.
Misawa had 25 five plus star matches. Kenta Kobashi had 23. And then Kawada and Okada each had 21. Omega had 17. Osprey at 28 years old has 16 five plus star matches. I can't
Yeah.
disagree with that.
No, and we were talking about our favorite matches. Like I really loved Omega versus Phoenix too.
Yeah,
But the thing is that I have a really hard time like having a TV match being one of my a match of the year, because you got those commercials going on in there. You got the pacing is usually different. It's hard for me to like rate a TV match the same as I would a pay-per-view match.
true.
You know. Look. I mean, if you really think about it, like look how much that commercial affected that one match for you with what was it, Walter
Ciampa
against
and Walter.
Ciampa. Yeah, where you had watched it originally, you're like, man, this match kind of sucks. And then you watched it without the commercial in there, and you were like, wow, that was amazing.
Okay, it must have been against that just one person because his pay-per-view win-loss record, this is Kenta Kobashi, is 8 wins to 2 losses, and his non-pay-per-view is 416 wins to 393 losses. So it must have just been a story I heard about one guy.
Yeah, could be.
But for some reason, I thought his whole shtick and what made him popular was that he was the first ever lovable loser.
Yeah, could be. I really don't know. I'm not that fluent in the history of all Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, I'm not either. And that's just like I said, that was a story that I've heard is that he was a lovable loser, which is why everybody loved him so much.
I think if we had the technology that we have now during the time where I was growing up, I would probably have been watching that a lot more than I watched Nitro and Raw, to be honest with you, because just watching those Rumble the Rising Sun shows, I was so intrigued and interested in the pure Reso style,
Yeah,
just like I am right now by New Japan.
yeah, and yeah, I mean, I personally love the New Japan style, but Shibata is what turned me on to that.
Yeah, gotcha. What I did not, well, for me it was a combination of Shibata and AJ being over there and seeing Shinsuke, and then Okada and Tanahashi. To be fair,
Well, the worst thing is that I didn't. You're the one who got me into New Japan, and that was at Wrestle Kingdom 10, which was AJ's last match.
right?
But shortly after that, I started watching. And Shibata is what made me fall in love. Shibata and Matt Striker are honestly what made me fall in love with him.
What I did not love from New Japan, in addition to the blindfold match, was the ladder match between um, Taichi and. Uh,
It's funny because when you were letting your dog out, I actually praised that match.
it wasn't that was terrible. It just wasn't something I loved.
No, I mean it wasn't like a love fest, but when I was looking at that match, that was one of those where I was like, no. I mean, because you look at Tama Tonga, and I love him in ladder matches when he's a tag team, but if you watch those ladder matches, out of like even that ladder war against him and SCU and against God, SCU, and the Briscoes, he was the one that took the least amount of bumps. So I was kind of leery on how he was going to do in an individual, and then of course Tai Chi, I could never picture in a ladder match. But ultimately, I felt like they put on a hell of a show and a very entertaining match.
I thought when it was just the two of them, it was entertaining. I thought once the tag team partners got involved,
Oh yeah,
I started rolling my eyes and just got like, come on,
right.
that really turned me off to it. It really did.
Like that spot, and I keep going back to it as one of my favorite spots was when Tai Chi set up that ladder, broke apart the hinges and set up the ladder, and then eventually Tama Tonga went through it. I felt like that. It's something that gets lost in these type of matches where, Mick Foley is the one I think of the most because he would set up something that would come into play like 10 to 15 minutes later. And I felt like that spot was a good callback to that, and it's something I think gets lost in these style of matches where when they'll set up something and then we'll pretty much just forget about it, and then all of a sudden somebody gets slammed through it.
My favorite example of that is when it was Kevin Owens versus Dean Ambrose at
Oh
Royal
yeah.
Rumble 2018, maybe,
Yep.
where they were facing off in a last man standing match, I believe it was, and they had set up a table like very very early in the match, and it ended up I totally forgot the table was there, um, and then that's how Ambrose ended up winning the match was by like dropping Owens from the top rope to the outside through that table. My second favorite one of that, I was actually live in the arena for, and we might have talked about it on the show when I went to see that takeover in Chicago, Takeover Chicago 2, and I was so involved in watching the match that I forgot that Champa had pulled back um, the ring covering. And so when that spot happened and Champa hit Gargano with was now Willow's Bell into the wood, the solid wood on the ring flame, I was like, oh shit, I forgot that was there. And then I was like, did he just kill him?
Right.
So, so yeah, man, I totally know what you mean. Yeah, setting that up and the slow build to the slow burn to finally using it is fantastic.
Yeah, and I mean that even happened during the Shingo and Osprey match with the tables.
It did, yeah.
Your dogs are in rare form today.
Well, yeah, I mean, I fed them like during between breaks of our shows, and I usually do, and usually they're able to kind of like wait to go potty afterwards, but not today.
Yeah, they're in rare form today, I will say that.
Yeah,
But no, it's hard for me to say anything bad about NJPW this week outside of like that one match, the Osprey versus Shingo, I felt went on a little long. And then of course that blindfold match.
so I didn't watch the whole show, so I'm sure I missed like when they explained this. And I know Kelly said something about COVID. So did one of the two participants that were scheduled to be in the junior heavyweight championship match come down with a
Yeah,
case
but
of
they
positive
never said
testing? That's what.
they never
Go
said
ahead.
who. And I didn't watch the tag matches, so I don't know who it was, but they never actually said who it was.
Okay,
Um,
so one of the two guys, did test positive, so they weren't able to have that match. Is that what
nope,
happened?
came in with a fever.
Came with
And
a fever.
I'm not
Okay,
sure
okay,
if it was him because they never, like I said, they never actually said who the people were. But they had an announcement. The president of NJPW, I can't remember his name, but he had an announcement saying that one guy tested or one guy had a fever, and then another guy has kind of been on the watch list since the start of this Road 2 event. So they were holding him out as precautionary too.
gotcha. Okay,
So they changed those two matches, and the one that was the biggest affected was the junior match. But I have no clue who did. And like I said, I didn't watch the tag team matches, so I don't know if one of those guys was actually in a tag team match or if they just let it go altogether.
gotcha. Okay, I was just wondering because I thought that's probably what was going on because I was surprised to turn it on and it went right from like a tag match to being the World Heavyweight Championship match.
Yeah,
So.
they had two people that were affected. Who those two
Okay.
people were, unfortunately, I don't know, but they did have two people.
Actually, I don't know if you saw this or not, but like 2 days after this event, they actually postponed both the Tokyo Dome shows.
Oh,
So
good.
the two that were planned for Tokyo Dome on the 15th and the 29th are now both postponed. So, so that Okada match versus Osprey will have to wait until they're actually able to have another major show.
Well, we've gone 45 minutes now, and all we've talked about is New Japan, and there were so many other great things that happened over the last 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, I mean,
One of them being
good.
Rebellion. I thought that was a great show. I was disappointed in the Rich Swann versus Kenny Omega match, not because Kenny became a belt collector, but because I never felt like Rich Swann was a real threat. But all the other matches I loved. Big Cass making him what is he called now? W Marshall or something like that?
W. Morrison.
W Morrison. He looked amazing. and I really want to watch Impact to find out how great he looked, in their follow-up. I did watch ELP on Impact, which was a good match, kind of what you'd expect for a squash match.
Oh, it was a squash match. Okay, I was about
Yeah,
to ask you that.
you're I don't know what happened, but you're really, really low right now.
Really? How about
Yeah,
now?
nope, you're still low. So I don't know if you got unplugged or something,
I don't think so.
or volume got turned down.
Is it better now?
Yep, there we go. Um, but you know,
Okay.
the ELP match was kind of a squash match. It was against another. It was ELP who was debuting on Impact against some guy named VSK who was also debuting on Impact. So obviously it was going to be a squash match. Um, but I never felt like Rich Swann was really a threat to Kenny. But all the rest of that pay-per-view I loved. It was weird. Like Matt Striker, and you mentioned this, Matt Striker and D'Lo Brown have just this amazing chemistry together. And they're able to, and I think you mentioned it yesterday about how you kind of compare them to Tenay and Don West as far as the level of excitement they bring. And you're not wrong. They are really good together. I love the fact that D'Lo is able to kind of play that comedy commentary straight guy type thing. And Matt Striker to me is just one of the best play-by-play guys there is, and has been for years. And I'm still blown away that WWE ever let him go.
Yeah, I really enjoy the excitement that they bring, the way they hype the matches, and talk about what's going on in a logical manner. That's what Striker has always brought to the table, and I've always appreciated. I also like that they're both able to switch roles during matches as well.
Yep.
There'll be times where Striker will be the play-by-play guy, and D'Lo will do the color role, and then they might just switch like in the drop of a hat
Right.
to doing it. And I think that's fantastic. I think it's great to have the commentators that can do that. My dogs are playing in the background. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so I really enjoyed that. I thought Rebellion is probably the show of the year so far. Not probably, it is definitely the show of the year so far. It's going to
Top
take
to
a
bottom,
lot.
yeah.
It's going to take a lot to beat that. I mean, if you combine the two nights of Wrestle Kingdom and take the best matches out of there, that you'd have an argument, but you can't do that. I mean, they were two separate shows.
Yeah, that's what I
This
was gonna
this
say. Standalone, this is by far top to bottom. Standalone, this is by far the best.
Absolutely, and there was not a match on this show that I would rate below 3.5 stars, and that is very very rare. And so yeah, I mean, I really thought this was a great pay-per-view. I thought Impact. I did not feel like I wasted a single one of my $40, unlike when I ordered like the latest AEW pay-per-view. you know, so yeah, I mean, I really did enjoy Rebellion quite a bit, and yeah, you had mentioned on the night you had mentioned that Swan versus Omega, was in the running for match of the year, and then you had said like you rewatched it and you felt like there was something missing, and you might have finally figured out what that was. Did you?
Yeah, and
What was that figured out was missing from it?
it was the when I rewatched it the second time, like I thought it was good ebb and flow. I thought there was a lot of great spots and everything, and I think I might have got caught up in the hype of Omega becoming, another champion. But when I went back and rewatched it logically and took emotions out of it, I just never really felt like Rich Swann had a legitimate chance to win the match. Like every time Rich Swann would hit a big move and you'd be like, oh, okay, and then Kenny would come back with something to offset it. So I never really bought into Rich Swann winning. And I think that's um, where I think it took kind of a nosedive, was that I never truly bought into Rich Swann winning.
Yeah, I didn't. I really didn't either. I mean, I felt like if Swan had won that match, it would have been like a monumental upset.
Right.
Not just an upset, but like shocking, bizarre, and like what the fuck is AEW doing? Seriously, I really would have felt that way if Swan had won that match. So yeah, I mean, I thought it was really good on the night. I thought on rewatch, I still thought it was really good. I think it's probably in that 4-star range of the match, and I do think there's a couple of things I take away from it in addition to that feeling that Swan was really a threat. One of them is there was really no reason for that ref spot.
No.
And number two is that it got legitimately uncomfortable when Omega kept hitting those those V
triggers.
triggers when and the blood and the sweat is flying off of Swan, and he looks like he's just about out of it. I mean, it really felt like that should have been a stoppage right there.
Right.
Coming from a guy who's watched guys get hit actually in boxing matches when they've been in that condition. So with the referee just was like a second too late in stopping it. You know what I mean? So I
Right.
mean, it felt uncomfortable to me too, and I felt like that was unnecessary also. So.
Yeah, there
So
were.
yeah, so I mean, while I thought it was great, and I thought it was a good way to end a great show, I also did not feel like it was a match of the year contender.
No, and like I said, Rich Swann just never felt like he had a chance. And that was my biggest drawback. And I thought when I first watched it, I thought it was great. But like I said, I think I might have been caught up in the emotion of Kenny winning another belt, becoming a belt collector, becoming what we thought Austin Aries was going to be. Another thing that I really enjoyed about that match was the beginning when Kenny or when Matt Stryker started listing all the other major promotions champions. He talked about Roosh, he talked about Fatu, he talked about Osprey, he even mentioned Bobby, Bobby Lashley. I thought that was a nice little touch too.
Now, I question like when he said Fatu, was he talking about Reigns or was he talking about um, Fatu from MLW?
He was talking about Jacob Fatu,
Okay,
um,
because
because otherwise he would have done like he did with Bobby and just said Roman.
okay.
Um,
Well, yeah, but Bobby Lashley's real name, whereas it isn't Roman. Isn't somewhere like it isn't like Fatu somewhere in Roman's name, or
I
am I
don't
mistaken?
know. I know he's part of that family, but I don't know if that's his name.
Isn't it like Joe? Is Joe something? Isn't it?
Yeah, it's Letty Joseph Anoy,
Okay.
Anoi, or whatever. So when he said Fatu, he was talking about Jacob Fatu.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
Um, yeah, his real name is Letty Joseph Anoi, I believe is how you pronounce that.
I really
Damn, I
loved
didn't
all.
realize he was as old as he is. I guess I didn't realize he was 35 years old.
I really loved also when when Callis called Omega the greatest wrestler in the last 10,000 years.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that was. He did that. He did that again on AEW in the opening match when he was talking about the all-time Japanese greats, and he mentioned Nakazawa as one of the all-time greats.
right, right. He went from 3,000 to 10,000 to 20,000 years.
Yep.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I love Don Callis. I love the fact that he goes to the lengths he does. Um, the other thing on that card that I really want to talk about is how they kept hyping up the fact that Austin Aries has or not Austin, Ace Austin has a heavyweight championship belt title opportunity in his pocket, and that just makes me excited to see Omega versus Ace Austin.
well, right now they're setting up for at their next. I can't remember the next event is called, but they're doing a six-way match, and whoever wins that six-way match is going to be the next challenger for Omega.
I thought they
And I,
said
and
something else. When I was watching
sure
the ELP match.
I'm pretty sure Austin is out of it.
No, they Under Siege is the next one, I believe.
It is, and there's a six-way match on there to determine the next number one contender for Omega.
I could have swore they said something else on the when I was watching the ELP match.
I don't care what they said when we were watching the LP match. I watched the Impact right after this show, and that's what they announced. So
Yeah, they
there
were.
was like there was going to be six matches to determine who the six people are going to be in it.
Oh, okay,
Um,
maybe that's what they're.
unless like maybe they put Eddie and because Eddie Edwards and um, Sammy Callahan were in a match to determine which one of those guys was
All
going to
right,
go in it,
I'm sorry.
And Omega and the Good Brothers interfered in that match, so maybe they made it a seven-way match now instead.
No, it's a
So
six-way match, and I'm sorry, but there's only two people, and the people they were talking about was Moose and Sammy Callahan. That's where
okay,
I got that from. But the other four people in this match, other than Moose and Sammy Callahan, I can't see being considered. Like Trey Miguel didn't become a thing until a couple of weeks ago. Matt Cardona, he just lost to Brian Myers, didn't he?
and then he beat Brian Myers to get into the match.
And then Chris Bay wasn't even on the pay-per-view. Chris Sabin is a tag team guy. So when they were talking about, now I remember what they were talking about when I was watching the ELP match with Sammy and Moose.
Gotcha. Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Well,
and those
but
are,
you know,
to be honest, the only two people that I can possibly see as legitimate contenders, especially after the way that he kind of beat down Rich Swann.
um, I'm going to disagree with you on Trey Miguel because he must have signed them for some reason. He had an offer on the table from NXT, and even after Rascal's been treated so poorly um, by Impact, he re-signed with Impact. So there must have been some reason for that. He did get the big win over Sammy. He's been on the rise. I would not be surprised if he wins this match. I'm not saying I'm not saying he's gonna beat Omega for the title, but if he's not, I would not be surprised if he's the next guy to challenge Omega for the title,
Yeah, I don't know. I
or
don't
the
see it.
first guy to challenge Omega for the title. I guess technically it would be,
I just,
right?
I don't see it. I
You
really
don't
don't.
have to see, but I'm saying it's not impossible. I'm saying
No,
that
I know.
that's. I'm just saying that I wouldn't discount him the way you're discounting the other three guys.
Yeah,
You
fair
know.
enough. Fair enough. And then AEW, this Blood and Guts. I know we're pushing an hour right now, so um,
Yeah, yeah. Blood and guts happened.
I I was hoping for something a little bit different than War Games. I felt like for the first time ever they were true to War Games. Like even, MLW's version and NXT's version, we haven't seen the true War Games where they just kind of stand out, alongside the ring waiting. I mean, what NXT has them locked up in a cage at the top of the ramp.
Yeah,
So
I mean, well, and also in NXT they let him win by pinfall. I don't think any of them ever actually been won by submission or surrender the way that they were supposed to originally be.
right. So I mean, as far as it goes, this is the closest to actual War Games that we've seen.
But yet, they started bringing in weapons again, which I hated. I really wanted this to be, just 10 guys fighting each other and not have the weapons involved in it.
I thought the ending was great because I can't remember the last time we saw that where you submit or I'm throwing them off a cage.
Right.
Even in the original War Games, I don't remember actually seeing anything like that.
No, because I don't think in the original War Games I can't remember anybody ever actually escaping the cage.
No, that was the other thing too, because isn't that like one of the stipulations where if you escape the cage, you automatically lose the lose the match for your team? Isn't that the
It isn't.
NXT stipulation?
It is. That's the NXT stipulation, but the NXT also doesn't have a roof on top of the cage like this one did.
That's a good point.
That was the other thing. That's the other thing I've always hated about the NXT versus the War Games is they don't have the roof on top of the cage like you were supposed to.
Well, I
That
mean,
like the original War Games always did. You know,
this way they can get up there and do their flips off the top of the cage.
and it doesn't look like Hell in a Cell is the other thing.
No, yeah, that there's that too. Um, I I thought that the whole standoff in the middle was way too much of stolen from when NXT did that, when it was, Pete Dunne and all those guys against
Undisputed Era.
yeah,
Yeah.
against UE. That was kind of a drawback to me. Um, as far as the and then the fact that once there was a moment where Inner Circle had the advantage and they were attacking one at a time, like one at a
Hmm.
time. At that point, how does Inner Circle lose the match? There are five guys standing there, and Pinnacle is attacking one at a time. How does the Inner Circle ever lose that match? And then when they got up to the top of the cage, we never saw what was going on in the ring again.
I know.
It was just MJF and Chris Jericho the rest of the match.
Yeah, that bugged me too. I mean, I I I had high hopes for this. I guess I shouldn't say it. I was looking forward to the match. I didn't necessarily have high hopes for it to be great, but um, it wasn't. It just to me it didn't click. It just didn't. I didn't like that Jericho was able to turn the entire side for his team. I realize he's Jericho and he's supposed to be like this amazing, and he is this amazing performer. And don't get me wrong, but I didn't think like just Jericho should be able to turn the tide as much as he did.
Right.
You
I
know.
mean, I did like the Haas fight between uh, or Jake Hagar and Wardlow. I did like
Hmm.
Sammy's performance. I thought Sammy was incredible the entire match.
Hmm.
But there were a lot of things to dislike. The other two things about this show that really stuck out to me was the fact that how was Adam Page being built up over the last 3 weeks as the number one contender, but next week we're going to have a number one contender match between Pac and Orange Cassidy.
Yeah, and then I looked at the ratings, and that that bullshit loss to Brian Cage, where like he gets attacked before the match, and the match goes on, and he ends up losing basically almost in a squash to Cage because of that attack beforehand. That shot him from the number one contender down to the number five contender.
Right.
His only loss of the entire goddamn year. His only loss. I think it's his first loss since they lost the tag titles to FTR, and that puts him at the number five contender instead of number one contender. That didn't not make a single fucking lick of sense to me.
The other thing about that is, why was Brian Cage not catapulted to a higher position?
Right? Why is he not in the top five? Yeah, that's a good question.
If he beat the number one contender and knocked the number one contender down to fifth, how is he not catapulted into that one or two spot?
Or at least into four, but he's
Right.
not even in the top five. Yeah.
Right.
I don't understand there. I don't. We've questioned the rankings ever since they started. But
Well, it's just,
but yeah, and yeah, I mean, and really just to make sure that like there's this feud going on between Best Friends and Death Triangle is going to make it like super important. Now we've got people from both those stables facing off to see who's going to challenge Omega for the championship.
right.
You
And I
know.
mean,
And
I
really,
just,
I mean, and really, it's probably going to be something like Omega's going to interfere again, and so it's going to be a triple threat.
right. I don't know. I just, that bugged me. The other thing that I really caught that kind of bothered me, and maybe they should have done a better job of setting up, or maybe Nagata should have actually said something negative about Moxley instead of, "Hey Mox, I accept your challenge," and then Moxley gets on and cuts a promo about, "I heard what you said about me.
Yeah,
You were disrespecting me." I'm like, "Wait, what? What the hell are you talking about?" He wasn't. No, he just said, "I accept your challenge."
yeah. I think Moxley was trying to say like in the back locker rooms of Japan, he was actually disrespecting him. But yeah, you're right. It was hard to get that connotation from it.
It was that was those are the things that kind of caught me, and I was like, "Wait, what?" And I couldn't focus on his actual promo, which was pretty good. But the fact that he went to that extent when, according to us, Nagata didn't say anything bad. All he said is, "Hey, I accept your challenge."
The other thing that happened this week that I really just kind of watched and went, huh, that happened was, and I'm sure they want me to care. I just don't. Is that um, Indy and um,
Dexter Lumis,
no, fuck.
Candice LeRae.
Candice LeRae won the women's tag team titles. Who cares? Those titles don't mean anything yet. I mean, they really need to do something to establish those titles as meaning something before a title change is going to matter.
Like, I
You
don't
know,
know, maybe let the original holders of the belt that were awarded it win the first match less than an hour later. That could have
or
helped.
or even if they didn't do that, even the current team like holding it for 4 or 5, 6 months instead of like a month and a half would have worked. But and have them actually have some great defenses against great teams. Or actually, wait. I just totally realized what they need to do. Have some great women's tag teams.
Or, another thing that they could have done, which really kind of frustrated me too, was
Is not
instead
is
of,
not make is not make the championship in the first place.
well, yeah, I mean, besides that, but
Okay.
instead of, a team that they've already got a beef with, but they beat them a couple times, instead of having Dexter Loomis buy them flowers to create some kind of fake hatred between the teams, why did we bother doing that?
I have no idea.
Did you, you know what promo I'm talking about, where all of a sudden they got delivered these flowers, and then it turned out, then it was, then whatever her name, the Pepe Le Pew character, um, came out, Taya Valkyrie's character came out and said, "Oh, they're from Dexter Loomis," and they're fighting over, "I don't want them, you take them. I don't want them, you take them."
Yeah. Yeah.
What was the point of that?
I don't know. I don't know.
It was frustrating, I will say.
Yeah, it was frustrating, and it just title changes in order to matter, you have to care about the titles,
And right now we don't.
and right now we don't. Yeah,
But then again, I stopped caring about these titles the second that they were given to somebody and then lost 45 minutes later.
I stopped caring about the titles the moment they were announced.
Oh, but remember that was a game-changing announcement.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
It was the game changed, and it just made NXT. Yeah, well, actually, it was a game changing announcement, Jeff, because it made NXT pretty much half of it you can't really even get into
Watch.
anymore. All these women's tag team matches just don't do anything for me.
And I will say that they probably do have the best women's division in wrestling right now, but that's because there's only one women's division. Maybe you could count the knockouts division, but I can't count that anymore considering they only have two actual decent wrestlers on it.
Well, AEW's got a women's division.
Oh, yeah, you're right. And Britt Baker and Shakita are amazing.
Yeah, and they're
And
facing
Chris
off against
and
and they're
Chris
facing off against
Statlander.
each other for the championship at um, Double or Nothing.
Oh, well, that kind of who has a better women's division? I mean, the top three in AEW are Statlander, Shida, and Britt Baker. And then they
Mm-hmm.
also have, as much as I hate her, that Amadon, and they have
Abaddon. Yeah,
Abaddon, and they have, of course, they still have Riho that's on the roster, and
they
um,
have Thunder Rosa, right?
they have Thunder Rosa. They
Yeah.
have their whatever they're doing with the NWA. So they've got a pretty decent division. If you cross-reference that to NXT, obviously Gonzalez is the top of the food chain, Io Shirai. But outside of that, who are you going to put up there that would equal what they have in AEW? Maybe
I
Candice
think
LeRae?
I think Tony Storm is really good.
I
I,
think
do- I think
Candice
Tony.
LeRae is too.
Yeah, but yeah, but I think you're right though. I think the top six in AEW are better than the top six overall. I don't even think Renee Gonzalez is that good, to be honest with you.
No, she just became the new powerhouse since Shayna Baszler left.
Right, and and like I said before, she is so super green that I can't take her seriously even as champion. So,
No, I
um,
agree with you there.
yeah. So I mean, you're right. I mean, when they say that AEW's women's division is struggling, and they need somebody. No.
Maybe maybe Taya Valkyrie is about the only thing I could have thought of that would have added to that.
Yeah, exactly. Like I would have loved to see Taya go there instead of where her husband went, but whatever.
Well, she didn't go to where her husband went. She went to NXT.
Well, same. They still get paychecks signed by the same company.
I'm hoping that they decide to bring John Morrison back to NXT and get him out of the where he's at on the SmackDown roster or wherever the hell he's at.
And I know it's only been a few weeks, and I should give it some time, but I just loathe this character that she's playing right now.
Well, especially when we talked about it, she was speaking Spanish a month ago on NXT, and now all of a sudden she's speaking French.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I,
And
I
and, and, she, and, she, and she's acting clueless on NXT, when she was the mastermind of the women's division for years on Impact. You
my
know.
favorite spot ever, and I love Austin Theory. I absolutely love him. Cat. I love Austin Theory, and his whole fascination with her nails was one of the best parts of this entire episode.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
They're so big. Yeah, I know. I saw the nails. Fucking Johnny Gargano and Austin Theory together is just a great combination. Hold on a second. Filibuster.
Filibuster. I'm not sure what else to talk about. We talked about pretty much everything in pro wrestling this week. Um, be interesting to see when they were able to reschedule more shows in New Japan Pro Wrestling, to see what's going on there. I mean, I do know that they're still having a little bit of an outbreak out there, and it even seemed like after the New Beginning shows, they might be able to have to shut down completely for a while, but they didn't do that. And now 3 months later, we're having shows shut down. So I'm really hoping that we get back in the momentum, because I really do want to see Ospreay beat Okada for the first time in a clean match. And I also going to want to see when the Best of Super Juniors is coming up, because normally it'd be right around this time frame, and we haven't had any announcements from that I've seen yet whatsoever. So it'd be interesting. I know the rest of the show was NJPW, but hey, that's where my heart is right now as far as pro wrestling goes. NJPW. Um, I'm really not happy that speaking of, but if we go back to AEW, I'm super not happy that once again we're having an AEW pay-per-view on a Sunday night. I think that sucks.
Yeah, I kind of liked the Saturday. It was different. And this Sunday thing, I like being able to watch it on Saturday morning if I didn't do it live. Or even if I did do it live, I could still watch it on Saturday or Sunday morning.
Right. I prefer that as well. And then you're not having to worry about like being up late, the night before work and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Well, and even Impact. Didn't Impact go to a Sunday night this time? And they were Saturdays too for a while?
Was it on a Sunday night? I can't remember. Yeah, no,
I,
I think it was on a Sunday night. Yeah, I
yeah.
think you're right.
So we still have Ring of Honor. Well, and NJPW who just does it really, really early Saturday mornings.
Or whenever they want to.
Right. Yeah, or Tuesday afternoon or whatever
Yeah,
they're doing.
like these May 3rd and May 4th shows were like in the middle of the week.
Yeah, Monday and Tuesday, and then we had. I mean, as far as the Blood and Guts show went, we were talking 2 weeks ago about how it was going to be a one match show. Then all of a sudden, within 1 week, it became a 6 match show.
I guess so.
What the hell happened there? They were even promoting it as a one match show.
I have no idea.
Maybe they realized that MJF was going to bleed out, so they couldn't do a 2 hour match.
Yeah, perhaps. It was cool to see them they bleed out and actually like show some toughness though too.
Yeah,
And
especially after the arc.
I really did I really am glad that he did what I was hoping he would do when he was threatening to throw Jericho off the cage if and the thing is he did not lie. He
No,
said if you don't give up I'm going to throw him off the cage. He did not say if you give up I'm not going to throw him off the cage.
right.
So
Yeah, I mean, and the fact that and okay, I'm sick and tired of people whining that Jericho didn't kill himself jumping off the cage. Who cares if there was a crash pad or anything below that, that stage setting?
what is he like
He's
47 years old?
he's 50.
Okay, he's 50. Yeah. What
I
the hell
mean,
do people expect?
oh, like all over Facebook, people are, I follow the AEW site on Facebook, um, and there's people just bad mouthing the fact that he didn't take an actual bump. And it's like, do you want dude to be paralyzed for the rest of his life? I mean, Jesus Christ. When Foley got thrown off the top of the cage and went through that table, that was pretty much the end of Foley. I don't think he wrestled too long after that, did he?
No.
And he was in his 20 or his early 30s at the time. Jericho is 50 years old.
Yeah, I think he wrestled about a year and a half after that, maybe.
Yeah. So I don't know. It just irritates me that people are all
Yeah.
bent about that.
Yeah,
And
are you actually wrestling fans if that's what you care about?
right, exactly. Exactly. I mean, they put on a good show. It was still a sick bump. I mean, Jesus Christ, I'm not going to get thrown off a 30-foot ladder into a crash pad. I don't care if it's a crash pad. It's still going to hurt like hell.
No kidding. Stupid.
But
Um, the other thing that we have to talk about this week, I probably don't want to talk about it until I actually watch it. So let's let's wait till next week to talk about Ring of Honor.
yeah, I haven't really watched much Ring of Honor, so I really got to get into it. Maybe I will this week. The other thing I want to mention too is I know people are raving Mauro Ranallo for his Omega versus Swan commentary. And while I thought he was better than he was in WWE or NXT, and we didn't have the stupid Mamma Mia catchphrase every 13 seconds, I felt like he overshadowed Matt Stryker. There were a lot of times where I was like, would you just shut up and let Matt talk? Um, and then there were other times I seriously felt like he was still doing his screaming at the top of his lungs to try and create a moment instead of letting a moment happen.
I did not mind him on commentary until after the match was over, he was like, "What did we just see?
Mhm.
Why did you say that?"
Like I said, he's
It,
trying to
it,
create a moment, and that's the thing
it,
I've
wa-
always hated about him is he tries to create moments, not let a moment happen.
yeah, because you watched a wrestling match in which in which that was supposed to be title for title, and one guy ended up with 2 championships. That's what you saw. That's what you were expecting to see. That's what you saw.
And the guy
You know,
who was on top and was never in doubt through the entire match actually won it.
right, right.
Yeah.
So you're right. I mean, he tried to make what you know. I I can't believe there's like more than 5% of people watching that match that thought that Rich Swann was not going to be the one to lose. you know,
If there was even
yeah,
5% after I mean, even going in, I could say, okay, going into it, maybe 5% thought he had a chance. But as
right.
you're watching that match, if by the end of the match there wasn't more than a 0.001% chance that thought he might pull it off, I'd be surprised.
Right. So to say it, so I mean, if Swan had won, then that would have made sense for him to say that.
Right.
Like, what did we just see? The greatest wrestler on the planet get beat by Rich Swan, right?
Right.
But
Right.
Swan getting beat by Omega should have been a no-brainer.
Right, exactly. It was, yeah. I mean, as far as his commentary went, I didn't hate it as much as I hate NXT, as hated him in NXT. But that doesn't mean I still liked him. Like I said, there were times when I was annoyed that he was out there taking over the commentary while D'Lo and Matt Stryker kind of sat in the background. I will give Matt Stryker credit because Matt played off of a lot of his nonsensical lines, and I can't remember them off the top of my head, but there were a couple of moments. I think one of them was like he graduated from the School of Hard Knocks, which was just a stupid, stupid line for its placement, and Matt came out and said, "That's one of the toughest college degrees I ever had to get." It was just Matt. I will give Matt a ton of credit because he played off of Morrow's really bad lines and turned them into something decent. But ultimately, I was not a fan of Morrow.
Yeah, and that's understandable. And I wonder if this was a one-off or if they've got like a contract where he's going to be calling the main events of 3 or 4 pay-per-views or something.
God, I hope not.
I mean, give your brand new commentary team a chance to do it, right?
Right.
Was this their first? This is their first pay-per-view calling, wasn't it?
Well, I guess I didn't watch them, but they have pay-per-views every 3, 4 months, and I think Josh Matthews just got promoted like 2 months ago, and Don Callis just went over to AEW about 3 months ago. So yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Is like that's what I thought. Is it only been a couple of months with this new commentary team?
But
So
I will give Matt a ton of credit because there were a few times where I went, wait, what? Because Ronaldo said something and Matt played off of whatever he said and made it actually sound like a legitimate thing that Morrow should have said. So I got to
yeah,
give Stryker
at
even
the same
more credit.
and at the same time, I felt like it I felt like Morrow being there threw D'Lo off. So I think there was times I can't remember the exact times, but I thought there was a couple times where D'Lo said stuff I felt like in that main event that he would not have said in the other matches.
So you're saying he became
Where
Natalia, or not Natalia, Beth Phoenix?
yeah, kind of maybe a little bit. Um, like for instance, like there was just times where he like where like Ronaldo would say, "Oh, Jay Driller," and he was like, "Yeah, he just hit the Jay Driller." It's like, yeah, Ronaldo just said that. Why are you following it up? you
It
know?
was kind of cool that they did call it the J Driller. Like,
Yeah, it was, because it's actually it's actually also Josh Alexander's finisher, right?
yeah, yeah, and I mean with Josh Alexander, they call it J Driller too.
No,
Um,
they called it something else. He had his own name for it.
oh, does he? Okay.
Yeah, I just can't remember what it was anymore.
That's just one of those things that I've always enjoyed, where somebody that creates the move or the move has kind of been named after, that
Hmm.
even years later they still call it that. Like
Yeah,
if it,
like the tiger driver or the dragon suplex or
yep,
dragon sleep or that kind of stuff.
or
Yeah.
the code breaker, which is
Yep.
basically just a front lung blower. I mean, it's still called the lion tamer for most people that do a Boston crab, or a walls of Jericho. You hear a lot. Coley driver, you hear on Ring of Honor. I've always been a fan of when a guy makes it famous that's what you call it after.
Yeah, makes sense.
Um, little annoyed that it's now an RKO and not a diamond cutter, but that's a whole personal thing.
You know what you hear a lot of times these days is like a Randy Savage elbow or a Macho
Oh
Man
yeah,
style
yep,
elbow.
yep.
You know.
It's no longer just a diving elbow; it's a savage elbow or something like
Right.
that.
Yeah. Anything else for this week of wrestling?
I got nothing, man. Guys, our Patreon, we're getting it reorged. Please check it out. All of our archives are up there, some exclusive stuff and everything. Patreon.com/Kingdom of Honor. If you are listening to this show and you enjoyed it at any time, please go ahead, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, because we have a lot of stuff coming on, including next Saturday, which will be the start of our week of broadcasting, as Shane breaks down another book. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to yesterday's, go back and listen to it because um, Jeff was in awe.
And next week we'll be covering the first book in the Miami Crime trilogy called "Who'll Stop the Rain" by Don Donovan. And here's a hint about how I might have felt about this book. I will not be continuing the trilogy. So,
Oof, oof, this should be a good one. This should be a good one. All right, guys, so that's all we've got. Wait, I'm still in your line. You're supposed to do that one.
That's right. That's all we got. We'll try to do better next time. This is Shane saying long days, pleasant nights, and Jeff saying
Goodbye.